I am genuinely mind blown by some of the answers Trump has been giving to simple questions over the past few days. There is one clip in particular that perfectly highlights Donald Trump's backwards view on the world, on politics, on our relationship with our adversaries, and on Democrats' role within the United States. I want to break these clips down, but first, just to take a step back, we are 15 days out from the election. I got a little bit nervous just saying that because it is going to come down to the wire. Make sure you're ready to vote. Make sure you know the early voting laws in your state. Many states already have early voting going on, so be ready. But without further ado, let's jump in. Drop a like, comment a blue heart, and let's show you this clip of Donald Trump in a barber shop in the Bronx talking to voters, giving nonsensical answers, and then later on in the video, we'll compare this to VP Harris answering questions on the same topic, and the contrast could not be more different. This is Donald Trump talking about how he'll fix schools in the Bronx, and guess how long it takes for him to mention transgender children.
We have here in the Bronx. What are we going
They're
to
failing.
What are we going to do to improve that in our school systems?
Well, we're moving them back from Washington, where you have people that don't care about New York, frankly. You know, in Washington, I don't know if you ever noticed this, you go Department of Education, Department of Education. You got half the buildings at Department of Education. I never saw. You don't need any of them. You know, I want one person and a secretary to just make sure they're teaching English, okay? Give it a little English, okay? I say reading, writing, and arithmetic. No transgender, no operations. You know, they take your kid. There are some places, your boy leaves the school, comes back, a girl, okay? Without parental consent. What is that all about? That's when they talk about a threat to democracy, they're a threat. Could you imagine, without parental consent? At first, when I was told that was actually happening, I said, you know, it's an exaggeration. No, it happens.
Did he see that on the same TV channel he saw the Haitian migrants eating cats on? I mean, this dude is living in an alternate reality for a few reasons. I could not help but laugh when he said that they're getting transgender operations. They're the real threat to democracy. I can't even connect that line in my head right now. The transgender operations that aren't happening in schools and Democrats being a threat to democracy. But again, this is another lie Trump has been telling constantly. The kids go to school and they come back transgender. And I don't think this guy was too impressed with Trump's rambling answer. He implies that schools aren't teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. He implies that schools aren't teaching math. And you know what? They're gaslighting us so hard because Republicans are the ones who constantly undermine science being taught in schools, who don't want to teach evolution and would rather opt to teach creationism or make sure that creationism is taught in schools as if it's equal to the theory of. They want to ban books in school. They want to influence the curriculum in nefarious ways. And is it just me, or was this guy not impressed by Trump's answer? I mean, we can even go to the very, very end of the clip and see his face. He's not impressed with the answer whatsoever. We have another clip of Donald Trump yapping on in the same barber shop being asked, do you think it's possible to eliminate federal taxes, which it's not a good idea in the first place, but Trump is saying there is a way. Of course, he says there is a way.
With all this extra revenue we're going to be bringing into the country. So do you believe at some point in time we could find a way, once the country's back on its feet and getting enough revenue and paid off our debt, do you think it's possible to find a way to eliminate federal taxes?
There is a way.
And how do you feel about it?
You know, in the old days, when we were a smart country, in the 1890s and all, this is when the country was relatively the richest it ever was. It had all tariffs. It didn't have an income tax.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Now we have income taxes, and we have people that are dying. They're paying tax, and they don't have the money to pay the tax. No, in the old days, 1890, 1880, we had so much money, they had to set up committees, blue ribbon committees, how to spend our wealth. We had no idea how to spend it with so much money. Then we went to the income tax system, and the rest is sort of history. But no, there is a way. I mean, if what I'm planning comes out, it's a great question, by the way.
Everyone could attain the American dream.
You're a pretty sophisticated cat, you know?
Everyone could attain the American dream if it wasn't for the high cost, the burden of high taxes, and we're taxed at every step of the way.
Yeah.
Okay, listen. So taxes suck. I see where this guy is coming from. Taxes suck for everybody. That is not arguable. But Part of the American dream is the fact that we have this contract, this social contract with the government where they provide us infrastructure like roads. They provide us essential services. We have parks, we have police stations, we have all of these things that help us. And yes, with the taxes that we pay, we should have better health care. There are definitely flaws, but eliminating the federal tax would absolutely nuke the government's ability to protect us from adversarial nations, which we will get to in a bit. It will nuke our ability to provide social security or any of these sorts of things that people pay into. Education would be stifled. Scientific development would be stifled. We become less competitive on the global stage because we'd be reverting back to 1890. Trump said something about 1890 not having federal taxes. Yeah, we didn't have nearly the same amount of infrastructure. So there's a few things going on. Yes, taxes suck. What this guy is saying is intuitively, people feel this all the time. Taxes suck, but they are necessary to have a functioning government. And just to return back to what he's saying, part of the American dream, part of the reason people move here is because we have nice infrastructure and we get to enjoy things that other countries don't get to enjoy. I mean, we can look at the disaster relief recently. That comes from taxpayer money. Airports that keep our economy functioning and keep trade going. Even bridges being repaired. It's all coming from taxes. And yeah, I mean, Donald Trump, what he's saying would effectively nuke our government, but there have been studies that Social Security would be out within 5 years if he got back into office. And I'm not joking, a new study just came out today reading Trump proposals could drain Social Security in 6 years, budget group says. I've heard 5 to 6 years. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget predicts many of Trump's policies could hasten the looming depletion of the Social Security Trust Fund. Donald Trump's policies are all so contradictory because he wants tax cuts while keeping spending the same or even increasing spending as he did during his term, which necessarily increases the deficit if you're not bringing in revenue. And he thinks that he can solve all this through tariffs on China. It is such a mind-blowing mess. Here's Trump speaking more on the economy. You know what? Before we get back to this clip, I want to jump to something that really blew my mind. I don't know how to describe how much this one pisses me off. A lot of times I'm calm throughout the videos, but Donald Trump says something about Democrats within America and then says something seconds later about our adversaries that are totally contradictory. Really quickly, let me play this clip of JD Vance defending Trump's enemy from within comments this morning on Fox News.
Also, throughout the past week, he keeps coming back. He's asked about these enemies within comments. And I've read all of it. I've listened to all of it. It's hard for me to know what he really means about it. But that's not my question. My question is, why is it necessary?
Well, Bill, first of all, Donald Trump is unfiltered. I think this is one of the reasons why the campaign has gone well is because he's not doing a basement campaign strategy. He's not just running on slogans. When people ask him questions, he speaks from the heart. And sometimes that means he's going to talk about issues that the mainstream media isn't focused on.
That wasn't an answer. He always says drill, baby, drill. Build the wall. I mean, this is the slogan master right here. It's all just make America great again. Slogan, slogan, slogan. And honestly, I think 2016 JD Vance would despise 2024 JD Vance. People also say 2016 Trump would have bullied 2024 Trump for being old. But I could see a 2016 JD Vance tweeting something like, wow, Trump just said the enemy from within. That is not rhetoric we expect from a president. But now he's fallen so far. This article reads, Trump repeats enemy from within comment, targeting Pelosi and Schiff. Donald Trump is criticized for referring to Representatives Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff as examples of the enemy from within, and he's done it 3 times this week. So this brings me to this Fox News interview where Donald Trump said in the same minute that Democrats are the enemy from within. Here.
You talk about the enemy within. There's enemies, America's enemies outside. The enemy within is a pretty ominous phrase if you're talking about other Americans.
I think it's accurate. I mean, I think it's accurate.
Who are you talking about?
And,
the enemy?
you know, I heard that. They said, oh, the enemy.
He also said one time, we might even need to deploy the National Guard. These people are so sick. How? How is that not headline news everywhere? But then, watch this clip. Within the next minute, Donald Trump says dictators like Vladimir Putin are only, quote, so-called enemies and might be enemies. Let me just back up for a second. Donald Trump thinks Democrats in America like Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff are the enemy from within. Absolutely, full stop. No caveats, no ways to sugarcoat it, but all of a sudden when Vladimir Putin gets brought up, well, he might be the enemy. He's our so-called enemy. They want you to think he's the enemy.
The outside people, the so-called enemies, if they're enemies, and they might not be enemies, if you have a smart president, they can be handled. But when you have people investigating my campaign, when you have people You know, they spied on my campaign, Howard. You understand that. That's been proven. But they spy on your campaign. The Russia hoax was all made up, and now it's acknowledged that it was made up. All of these different things. You have the 51 different agents saying it was from Russia, and now they all say it wasn't from Russia. Okay, so we were lying. Many other things, many. I could go. You just don't have enough time. But what they've done is so terrible. Who's ever heard of anything like this?
Who's ever heard of anything like that? Okay, there are so many things I want to break down here, but let's just start off with the fundamentals. Trump has very intentionally coined these phrases like Russia, or Trump derangement syndrome, which is a really good example, to distort reality and essentially deflect any criticism. So think about it. It is a calculated attempt to gaslight the public into thinking that our criticisms are invalid when he says Russia, despite him giving Vladimir Putin tests behind the scenes. When he says they only have Trump derangement syndrome, who cares if I grabbed women by the... It's all to imply that these attacks are unfounded or over-exaggerated. These phrases purposefully aim to essentially diminish the legitimacy of completely valid claims, and it's really disheartening. It's annoying. This article really quickly reads, Trump repeats enemy from within, targeting Pelosi and Schiff, but I'm not sure if anybody has pointed out exactly that he says in the next clip, Putin is our so-called enemy. Again, for the third time in 1 week, former President Trump repeated his charge that Democrats allied against him are the enemy from within. Trump, in an interview with Media Buzz that aired Sunday, refers to Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff as bad people who threaten democracy. Trump responded, excuse me, that's what they're using on me. You call Americans who don't support you the enemy from within. That's pretty ominous, and yeah, it is. Here is Trump being asked about his plan to get artificial foods banned in our urban communities, and he brings up Bobby Kennedy. He brings up Bobby Kennedy and says that RFK Jr. is going to help with the health of the nation one day after Trump did a tour through McDonald's and says he has McDonald's every day.
Plan to do about the food healthcare industry and getting the artificial foods banned in our urban communities that have less access to organic whole foods.
So, Bobby Kennedy, right? Everybody likes Bobby, and he's so big into the health food and women, things, everything. He wants to do things in the environment, and he endorsed me. The first time a Kennedy's ever endorsed a Republican. Maybe it's going to be the last, but I doubt it.
It's the same guy.
And he's a great guy. He would be so perfect. He doesn't like artificial foods, and he doesn't like pesticides and all the stuff they put on them. And if you listen to him for 10 minutes, I mean, he says other countries that don't do anything are healthier than us, okay? We're not that healthy, to put it mildly. So no artificial foods. We don't want artificial. We have plenty of food. The food isn't our problem. And our farmers are great. And our farmers aren't allowed to do their job. You know, our farmers did great. 4 years ago, they were doing just about the best they've ever done. They're not doing...
Is any of this an actual prescriptive answer? There's a difference between describing things that are barely even true, like, oh, farmers are great, and prescribing how you fix those things.
Well at all now. We're not going to have artificial foods. We don't want artificial foods.
He just says it. We're not going to have artificial foods. We don't want artificial foods. We want the economy to be better. The economy will be better. Yeah. How though? How? And you know, the first time I watched this, I didn't know if he meant Bobby Kennedy. I didn't know who he was talking about when he said Bobby Kennedy until he said he endorsed me. He's clearly talking about RFK Jr. Nobody calls RFK Jr. Bobby Kennedy. That's just not something that people do. I have one more clip of JD Vance talking about Liz Cheney being a small, petty person. They're gaslighting us. These people are gaslighting us. I think JD Vance in particular is trolling. Sometimes I think that JD Vance, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, all of these people who can't be this stupid. JD Vance can't be that dumb. He has to be decently smart. I think they're trolling us half of the time when they say that Democrats are a threat to democracy.
And what they will tell you to a person is that Liz Cheney is motivated by an obsessive hatred of the people who cost her Wyoming congressional seat. She is not motivated by a love of this country. She's a resentful, petty, small person, and if Kamala Harris wants to parade her around, she's welcome to.
I think Liz Cheney is more resentful that Trump tried to coup the effing government, that Trump pressured the vice president, which her dad was once the vice president. She probably has a little bit of a connection to that role and to executing the peaceful transfer of power on January 6th, as her dad did, and to see that happen while she was in Congress. She was there. That's probably why she's a little bit resentful towards Trump, if I just had to take a guess. I don't know. If you guys appreciated this video, drop a like, subscribe, have a great rest of your day, and peace out.